This just in, Orange Bowl press conference, this time Georgia and head coach Kirby Smart.
Well, I think the argument that they're more talented than anybody in the country boils down to how they play, because talent gets you so far, and effort and toughness are a lot of qualities that we demand here, and both sides of the ball and special teams. So we're certainly excited about the defensive players we got, and we're young at some positions on defense, and we're old at some positions on defense. It seems in my years coaching, that you have one or the other. I've been through some really experienced teams in the secondary, been through some really experienced front teams. And this team has a lot of experience in the front and probably not as much in the secondary, but each year it's different. But this group's been fun to coach because they come to work every day. They've never really concerned themselves with outcomes and results. They've really just enjoyed working. They like to practice. They like being around each other. So I enjoy being around them. They've made it a joy to coach them. And it's not every year you get to coach a group like this. So we've certainly been excited. I think Dan and the defensive staff have done a tremendous job with those guys.
The next question comes from Chip Towers. Go ahead, Chip.
Coach, good to see you. How much of an issue has COVID safety and protocol been, in your preparations? Is it something you're spending a lot of time logistically dealing with? And then, obviously, has it affected your roster availability from players?
I think it's just across the country as a whole, it's obviously you turn on the national news, it's the lead-in story. You look across the country, the impact it's had on other games, whether that be NBA, NFL, the bowl games that it's impacted, certainly had an impact across the country. Ron Corson and his staff have been unbelievable, just awesome. We've had protocols in place throughout the year, probably not as strict earlier in the year as it was last year with the vaccination and really the low numbers and issues. As Ron saw things starting to spike, we increased our sensitivity to that. He's done a tremendous job of that over really prior to the SEC championship. We increased a lot of things around our building and our awareness of our players and understanding what's going on. He's had 4 different times. He's offered guys opportunities to get booster shots, and some of our guys have, some of them haven't, but they've really adhered to the policies we've asked them to and been able to steer clear for the most part. We had a little bout last couple weeks that we lost some guys and gotten most of those guys back. And really that's the biggest thing is being at full strength when you have to be, and that's where we're aiming towards.
And next question for Seth Emerson. Go ahead, Seth.
Hey, Kirby. 4 years ago when you all were in the CFP, it was coming off of SEC championship win. It was new. There was all this energy, excitement, enthusiasm. This time around, coming off a loss. How is it different? Is it good? Is it bad, you think?
Oh no, it's being a CFP is where you want to be. All the tactical motivation techniques you have for whether it's Texas, Baylor, or Cincinnati in one of the New Year's Six bowls certainly creates a different kind of energy than this. This being in the CFP is, we really, when you pan the room, I think we've got, I don't know exactly how many, but 2 or 3 guys that can even remember being in that CFP and know what that was like. And when you look at those guys, they embrace that. They've been hungry for that opportunity. So I think every player, that's what you set out to do. So there's been no downside to that. The time in between is really the same, right? So the time between games is relatively the same that we would have regardless of what game we were in. The fact that you're in the playoff, it makes the practices so much more energetic, the work ethic so much better. And, coming off the loss of the SEC championship, certainly disappointed, but it was also a little bit of an awakening for our guys of where are the brutal truths and how can we work on those. And you grow probably the most you grow in a year after a loss, and things are made a lot more relevant to you when you have those.
And next question's from Mark Schlabach. Go ahead, Mark. You there, Mark?
Mark, you may have went out there. I didn't hear you.
When did you realize Bowers was different than the typical freshman?
Early on. I mean, he came, when we recruited him, I thought he was different than typical freshman. I mean, this is a guy that would put his phone up and go run up a mountain or a hill out in Napa and sprint up the hill and back then down the hill and send video of it. So like he was wired differently. During COVID, we would challenge recruits to send us video of them working out, and he embraced that. Like he worked out every day. He competed every day. He sent video of going to throwing sessions with friends, and you knew right away this guy had some great one-step quickness. I mean, played tailback in high school, could hand him the ball, and he could do special things with it. So when you combine good size, speed with great work ethic, you tend to get a good player. But we felt pretty good that he was a special player while we were recruiting him. And then during the spring, he made some flash plays that we knew he was going to be a good player.
Okay, next question from Mike Griffith. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Kirby, when the quarterbacks come up, you likened it to other positions as far as the competitions. But is it different when it comes to making a substitution at that position just because of the gravity, as you've mentioned, the rhythm? Are coaches maybe more reluctant to make a change there than they would at safety or right guard because of that team rhythm or the styles of the quarterbacks?
I think it's hard to say. I think it's all based on the situation in the game, the things you discussed prior to what's going on in the game, how has practice gone during the week and previous weeks. It's certainly something that we talk about as a staff. But, yeah, it's different than other positions when it comes to making that decision for your whole team. And certainly that guy is the face and the leader of the team and gets the most reps. But it's something that the offensive staff and ourselves, we talk about a lot. But I'll be honest with you, I've been really confident in Stetson, now. I'm confident in JT. And I thought Coach Monken did a great job addressing some of that yesterday. And we've got confidence in all our quarterbacks.
Okay, next question from Ralph Russo. Go ahead, Ralph.
Hey, Kirby, you had mentioned your really talented tight end. And I just wanted to ask about, sort of as a defensive guy, dealing with these types of players who have become more prominent in offenses. What are the challenges to defenses when, Michigan's going to be like this too? They use their tight ends a lot. What are maybe the unique challenges to defense of dealing with these type of athletes being used in these types of ways?
Yeah, size, speed, matchups. You got to be careful. You can't put a little guy on a size speed guy. He can get overpowered, overmatched. You've got to have the personnel to match the offensive personnel. I don't care if that's 5 wides or if that's 14 personnel and they've got, a back and 4 tight ends in there. I mean, everybody can control the matchups they want to try to emphasize to what the strength of their team is. And Michigan does a tremendous job of utilizing those tight ends. So they're easier to use in play action. They're good matchups for intermediate routes. They're really good for the play action game off of wheels, off block and release. They do a tremendous job of that. And I think both these teams utilize their tight end skill sets really well.
And next question from Andrea Adelson. Go ahead, Andrea.
Kirby, can you just describe the challenge of facing not only Aiden Hutchinson, but also David Ajabo and the way those two feed off of each other and have been a nightmare for some other offenses to have to slow down this season?
Yeah, the first thing you have to do is match their intensity. Regardless of the talent they have, the strain, the desire, the want to leaks through on the film. And you talk to people that have played them. It's one of the first things they talk about is, man, we didn't take into account how hard they played, how much effort, how much want to, how much desire, and that has to come from within. That doesn't come from a star that was given to you out of high school. That doesn't come from a reputation you got. That comes from from like within? What do you have inside you? What stamina do you have in the fourth quarter to pass pro or run block, whatever it requires in the fourth quarter, to outwork the player, outstrain the player in front of you? And those two guys just are tremendous. You can tell they push each other. They go against a really good offensive line every day in practice. Those guys are really big competitors, and they're a huge challenge for our offensive line. You know, our offensive line embraces challenges like this. They want these opportunities. It's what you come to college to go play against, is the best in the country, whether that's the best in the country at red run defense or best in the country at rushing the passer. You want to play against the best. You want to be measured against the best, and that's what the playoffs allow you to do.
Next question's for Dennis Dodd. Go ahead, Dennis.
Hey, Kirby. One question is, do you have any COVID issues right now? And then unrelated to that, is there a plan for how much JT plays?
I think the first question, do we have COVID issues right now? We really don't address COVID. I mean, we don't talk about it with our guys, and we don't talk about it publicly. It's kind of been our rule all along that we have. So not a lot to address there in terms of talking about it, because we don't share that information out. And again, in terms of quarterback, you know, Stetson's our starting quarterback. So again, the JT situation will be a matter of, you know, is the situation right? And also, is he healthy enough?
All right, we're coming off that Kirby Smart press conference, and we are with the man who just asked the last question right here, Dennis Dodd. What did you take away from your answer from Kirby Smart there?
Well, the answer was kind of scripted. They're not going to tell if they are indeed in COVID protocols right now, or what they are, or if there's a problem. That's why I wanted to at least get it out there publicly and ask it specifically, do you have an issue? And he just hid behind the privacy issue, which all the teams are right now. But I did also ask him about JT Daniels. Is there a plan to play him? And he said, if the situation is right and if he is healthy enough. I thought that was very interesting. I had assumed he was healthy. That's why, you know, he had come down. Now, we knew reportedly he tested positive for COVID. Reportedly he was now fine. But does that refer to maybe he had symptoms and he's just recovering from it? There's all kinds of questions now, because as I mentioned earlier, Dog Nation wants to see JT Daniels in the worst way, in the Alabama game and especially in this game.
What else on the field do you have questions about when it comes to Georgia in this game with Michigan?
Did they leave their manhood in Atlanta? You know, somewhere between Atlanta and Fort Lauderdale, has the defense found its manhood? Again, as I mentioned, I watched every offensive snap of Alabama last night, and they were dominated. I don't think Michigan can dominate them in the same way because they play different. Alabama decided to go three-step drops in and out. Jordan Davis barely played in the second quarter. And I still don't know why that was. But Michigan has made a point to say this is going to be a slugfest. It's going to be in the tackle box, and win or lose, we're going to try to beat you up against the best defense in college football, at least right now in the last 20 years.
So you have the number 18 rushing offense going up against the number 2 rush defense. So what are some of the matchups that you're most excited to watch in this game?
A gap, B gap, because that's where Michigan's going to run the ball, and that's where they usually do it. Hassan Haskins can turn the corner, but Blake Corum can turn the corner even better. He's not a volume back because of his size. He's more of a home run hitter. He had even with a bad ankle, he had a 55-yard run against Ohio State that kind of broke the game open. And then against Iowa, they were spotting him in the game. 67-yard touchdown run where he just outran elite defenders in the Ohio State secondary and front seven. So there'll be a lot of stuff between the tackles. It just will be. You'll see a lot of 12 personnel to try to get those, try to outmuscle Georgia's front. Now, what Alabama did is they tried to spread it out. They went 4 and 5 wide a lot of the times to try to get those defenders out so they could make plays in space. Alabama also had John Mechie III. I don't know if the depth is there for Michigan's receivers.
Dennis, what do you think's at stake here for Kirby Smart in this game?
Well, he's still ascending. Look, this started as championship or bust for Kirby Smart. There's this angst at Georgia I wrote about earlier in the year that they haven't won one in 40 years. We all know that. There's this in the back of every Georgia fan's mind, there's something's going to go wrong. Something's going to happen. Is it going to be COVID? Are they going to lose to Michigan? They're only the 5th team in the BCS era since 1998 to come into this with a loss. There's only been 5 of them that have come off losses and played for championships, BCS and CFP, 23 years, 64 slots. Only been 5. The only one to win it all was Alabama in 2017 over Georgia. Can something go wrong?
Can something go wrong? That sounds like a lot of fans out there with their teams that they love the most. As this game as a whole, when you look at the whole situation, just real quick, your prediction, how do you think it's going to play out?
Well, I think I picked Michigan's outright because the matchup is good. They just been named the Joe Ward winner of the best offensive line in the country. We'll see. Again, does Georgia bring the hammer again? Are the matchup with the running backs is kind of a push to me. Cade McNamara can make plays, and what's going to happen with Stetson Bennett?
All right, so forget catching 7.5 points at the Orange Bowl. Dennis Dodd thinks he'll be an outright winner for Big Blue in the college football playoff semifinal. Dennis, certainly appreciate it. Going to be here throughout the week, of course, getting ready for Friday. The guys at Cover 3 will also have you covered bowl season daily. We got bowls today, Pinstripe, Cheez-It, Alamo Bowl, those previews and ones throughout the week as well. You've got Chip Patterson, Tom Fornelli, Danny Cannell, Bud Elliott, the entire game. Make sure to download and follow the Cover 3 podcast.